Hey, against my better judgment, I may have been doing a little bit of day drinking. This is Ego and Vice, episode 26.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.
Hey all, what's going on? This is Ego and Vice. This is episode 26. My name is Mike. I am your humble host of this podcast, as I am every week. This episodic, sporadic. No, it's pretty constant. In syndication, not quite yet. This is Ego and Vice. Fuck it. How am I? Thanks for asking. I'm doing well. You know, another week is behind me, and a new week is upon me. So I decided to sit down and bang out a podcast. What have I been up to? Well, shit. Let's figure it out. Today I was off, so I had nothing to do, so I vacuumed. That was a good thing. But I also sat down and I wrote a goat song, which is super exciting for me, because I've been in a weird kind of slump lately, as I've touched on the podcast in previous weeks, how I go through peaks and valleys as far as songwriting goes. Some days they're real bad, where I got nothing, and some days stuff flows pretty well. Normally, if I have free time, I have all the ambition in the world to write something, to sit down with my guitar and try and bang out some sort of something for one of my projects, I suppose. The Copper Altar kind of comes easy because me and Steph sit down and we do that together. Goat, I usually sit down by myself with my acoustic guitar and just try to come up with something. But like I've said before, everything I usually write, to me, sounds like a big flaming pile of pig shit. So I get discouraged and I just stop doing it. However, I do usually turn on my voice recorder on my iTelephone and, just record like little riffs and little bits and pieces and stuff. And about 2 weeks ago, I started kind of a song. Sometimes you'll write stuff that you get nothing from, you feel nothing from. And sometimes you'll write stuff and it has just a little chord progression or maybe just a little catchy part of just like, you do like a phonetic vocal, like a la 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 along that way. And sometimes you come up with something. So I made sure I bookmarked it or I red flagged it, either way. And today I came back to it and I got home this morning and I sat down, and before I did anything, I said, I'm going to pick up my guitar and I'm just going to see how it goes, see what I can do. So I took this half song and I started building upon it, and within about 2 hours, I had a full song. And I think it is one that's going to actually get out of the basement, out of Southwood Studio, and perhaps into the Goat practice space, and we may turn it into a song. I don't know. I recorded it, and I sent it off to Paulie J. Fox, the bass player, my right-hand man from Goat. And he listened to it and he said, man, I fucking love it. I just hate the fucking bridge. And I was like, fair enough. You weren't supposed to get anything today. So if you love 75% of it, I'm fucking gold. I'm good with that. And, bridges are hard though, man. Fucking bridges are super hard. And I hate writing bridges because it's like, writing a bridge is like writing a little song inside a big song. Because it's kind of left of what you're doing. It's kind of in the same idea, same flow, but you have to kind of branch off from where your idea started and try to write something a little different, just to, bridge it up. I am not a songwriting guru. I never went to school for songwriting. I basically just pick up my guitar, and if something comes out that sounds good, I go with that. I stick to kind of a formula. There's like an intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, pre-chorus 2, chorus 2, motherfucking maybe a little instrumental part where there can be like a lead of some kind, and then you hit the fucking bridge. Like, you don't have to follow these rules. You can write a song just as a verse. You can write like a fucking 4-minute verse if you wanted to. You can write a 4-minute chorus. You can write a song that's 30 seconds long. It doesn't matter. But I always try and stick to certain formulas when it comes to if I'm going to write like a bigger song, I suppose. And the bridge always is the thing that kind of trips me up. So I wrote a bridge. Apparently it sucks. But I need that kind of input, you know what I mean? And sometimes I will complain about, I got to do this all by myself and it's hard and this and blah, 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 blah. But I kind of choose to do that myself, you know what I mean? Because I don't really often, well, when it comes to Goat, I don't write with other people because Goat is my baby, and that's kind of like where I say what I need to say and I write what I need to write. So I prefer doing it by myself, and, then I bring it to band, and we usually kind of hash it out, and it comes out better than it started in the basement. But as long as I can say, coming out of the basement where I write the stuff, where I can say this is decent, this could be something good, then I'm good. You know what I mean? Then I've kind of I'm ahead of the game when it comes to that. But it really does in songwriting for me make a huge difference to sit with the guys or to jam it out with the guys, because then it becomes kind of an actual song. It gets life to it. You get different perspective in it, and different groove, different atmosphere, different feel. And before you know it, the song that you wrote or you demoed in the basement becomes this kind of different animal, still with the same idea. It still has the same core of what it was, but it's just better. And I know that's going to happen every time. I bring like an idea to the band. But the hardest thing for me is to have, I don't know, enough confidence in that song to bring it to the band to say, hey, what do you think of this? And sometimes I bring them there and they're like, fucking, that's great, man. I love that shit. Like, what are you worried about? And I'm like, I don't know. But I guess on the flip side, I've brought songs that I've sat in the basement where I'm just like, this is really good. I like this. I like what I've done. And they'll bring it to band, and we'll play it out, we'll jam it out a bit, and then I get those kind of like weird like looks across. Like Paulie and Mikey are kind of looking at each other like, you want to say something? And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So those songs get put aside. Maybe I rework them eventually, but maybe not. But the song today, I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty cool. Lyrically these days, I don't know, man. I have trouble writing lyrics these days. Look at me just bitching about songwriting. Fuck. But it's hard. It's hard. Like when I was a kid, I used to write songs and I'd say, fuck your mom, fuck your dad, fuck your uncle. You know what I mean? And it was like, fuck, that's rad, man. But the older you get, you can't say that shit because you don't mean it anymore. You know what I mean? You get old and you get soft. And the stuff you say has to have meaning because you're a fucking, you're an adult and you feel like you need to at least speak your mind and say something that kind of makes sense to you can relate with, and maybe other people can relate with. And if you want to write joke shit all the time, you can, and I've done a ton of it. But if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't want to be remembered for the song Eat a Dick, which I've written. Well, maybe I do, who knows. Fuck it, doesn't matter. So so that's that. Anyway, branching off that, what's going on in my life? Not too much. Just been laying low. Had a really quiet St. Paddy's Day. I was supposed to go out and see Hearts and Minds, my ex-band, my old band, but still my current friends. But, fuck, man. Downtown at the Rainbow on a Saturday night on St. Paddy's Day. Ubers would have been, like, supercharged. And you know what I mean? Like, I can't spend that much money to fucking just drive down to the market. And I found out that Hearts and Minds were on at like midnight, and I thought they were on earlier. So me and Brandy decided to just make some food, and we watched a horror movie, which was fun. And we called it an early night, and I woke up Sunday morning feeling refreshed and wonderful, and still very half Irish. So, hey, man. I hope Hearts and Minds had a great gig. Another band that was playing that night was Jumpin' Joel Flash and the Magic Machine, which I wanted to see because Joel's a friend of mine, and we missed their debut show, I think, as the full band about a month ago at Live on Elgin because it was sold out. Yeah, thanks for that. Didn't get a ticket. So I wanted to see that, but I ended up just kiboshing the whole thing, and I did nothing. Other than that, I've just been... I had my second band practice with the Riptides. That went well. Things are going good. My goal with the Riptides was to be better the second time out than the first time. I don't think I did that. And there's good guys, though. You know what I mean? Like, we were jamming, and, you know, you take a break, and we just goof around, and they're funny, and we all kind of have the same shitty sense of humor, talking about, like, bum froth and stuff. Maybe you had to be there, but either way. Other than that, just setting up some stuff as far as music wise. Goat's got a show April 21st. Yeah, that's right. At Cafe de Cuff with the Living Deads and Cultural Treason, and Copper Altar has a show on April 26th at Live on Elgin with Ty Hall and friends. And Chris Landry and the Seasick Mamas. And then the end of April, or after the weekend, April 27th, 28th, I'm on the road with the Riptides. We're going to Guelph, we're going to Hamilton, and we're going to Toronto. And the next thing after that, I think, is Montreal for Pooza Fest. So got lots on the go, really excited, and just trying to keep it all in check and trying to find the time to do it. Other than that, yeah, doing the podcast. I have a guest today on the podcast. She's going to be on shortly. Her name is Laura Andrews. She is a very important person when it comes to the Hope Volleyball Beach Fest, which happens every year here in Ottawa. It's a huge charity event, biggest volleyball tournament in the world, I think. Maybe in North America. Maybe she can clarify that later. But always they have a great live entertainment. They have a lot of local bands, and they always bring in some really great Canadian acts, bigger acts, that will come out and play. I've volunteered at Hope probably for the last maybe 10 years or so. It kind of dropped off in the last few years just because, I don't know, I'm always busy working and stuff like that. But I'd always love to get back on that and just go out and visit some friends. She's going to be on. She's going to talk about her experiences in Hope. I used to be in a band called Our Mistake, and she was actually our band manager at the time. So she has been always involved in local music, and she's always supported local music, and she has a lot to tell and a lot to say because she has a ton of experience and a vast history within the Ottawa scene. So I'm really excited about that, and to hear just the inner workings of the Hope Volleyball Beach Fest, because it's a huge event, and, you know, it happens one day a year, but she works on it all year. So let's find out about that. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to play a song from a local band called King Swan. I ran into these guys about maybe 3 months ago, I think. We had a talk, told them about the podcast, and they were pretty cool with it, and they said, yeah, play our stuff, and they sent me a message and whatnot. It takes me a while sometimes to get to people, to be on the podcast, just because I kind of have a schedule and I write it out the way it's going to go and the way everything's worked out. But I told you I'd get to you, and I'll get to you. And they released a record in 2017. It's called Rituals of Fire. You can find King Swan on Spotify, Bandcamp, Facebook, all the fixins. And they're a rad band, and they were really nice guys. So after I play this song, we're going to come back with my interview with Laura Andrews from Hope Volleyball. And cool, man. That's the way it's going to go. So this is King Swan. This is off the 2017 release Rituals of Fire. This is a song called Your Own Way Out. This is Ego and Vice. Hey, we're back. This is Ego and Vice. This is episode 26. Thanks for showing up again. I have a guest in Southhood Studio tonight. She is actually the silent partner, the silent money partner that keeps Southhood Studio afloat, if you will. She is affiliated very directly with Hope Volleyball Beach Fest. She has been involved in the Ottawa music scene for a long time, whether she knows it or not. She knows a lot of people. She's done a lot of things, and she's a real cool lady. I have Laura Andrews in the studio. How's it going, Laura?
I'm great. I'm actually quite honored to be invited to do this because I've listened to your podcasts and think they're fantastic. And when you asked me, I was like, "Whoa, I'm surprised," but honored, very honored.
Well, the honors all mine. But past the formalities, we've been friends a long time.
Yeah, probably since the early 2000s, like around 2002, 2003, something like that, I think is when we first met.
Yeah, Laura and I go way back, not just involved in Ottawa music, but just like being friends, and like you have people in your life that are just there all the time that you consider like close people. So Laura is one of theirs. So when you say you're honored, I'm honored that you're on. I'm happy that you're on.
Thank you.
And I think this is going to be a really fun conversation because the history that we've done a lot of fun, crazy stuff together.
We have, for sure.
But before we get into that, we're jumping forward. Let's start at the beginning. All right. I'm not going to delve too far back into like the history, but I know you're from the Schwa.
I am. I'm from Oshawa, yeah.
And now you're in Ottawa. What brought you to Ottawa? Let's bring that up.
I came to Ottawa in the 80s. There was a guy I was dating who went to Carleton University, and I was going to George Brown College. And when I completed my schooling at George Brown College, I moved to Ottawa and with this boyfriend and never left.
Did he leave?
He did.
That son of a bitch.
I know. He's now like a professor at the University of Winnipeg.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I'm an Ottawa transplant as well because I'm from Thunder Bay, but I know what it's like when you leave your hometown and you go somewhere for whatever reason it is, and whether it's going to be a short stay or a long stay, somehow you grow some roots and you say, all right, let's see how this goes. And then before you know it, this place is more home than the old place.
Yeah, it was weird. When I first came to Ottawa in the 80s, there's this spot when you're driving on the 417 and you're in Canada and you come over the crest, and I got these butterflies in my stomach, and I hadn't really seen much of the city, but I thought, I think this is my home. I think I'm going to stay here. And I have, and I love Ottawa. I think it's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
And Oshawa is a whole.
Well, like I said, I came from Thunder Bay and you came from the Schwa, so anything's better than those two
exactly
fucking places anyway. So when you got to Ottawa, once the whole reason for coming here had moved to Winnipeg or whatnot, and you started like planning some routes, as I said, what did you do? Like, what was the next step for you?
My career path has changed so many times in my life. Back then, I worked in the medical field. I worked in a laboratory as a lab tech and would take blood on people or do house calls on people who were really sick and couldn't get out to the lab. And then that job changed from lab tech to sales of lab supplies. I worked at Fisher Scientific. And while I was working at Fisher Scientific, actually, well before that, a friend of mine volunteered for Hope Volleyball and asked if I wanted to join. And I joined the planning team, and that was in 93. And I joined the planning team and started like in the bar committee. And my career changed from medical lab supplies at Fisher Scientific. And the final career change was being hired full-time at Hope Volleyball Summerfest.
See, that's interesting to me because as long as I've known you and you've always been involved in Hope, and I've volunteered Hope and I've had some involvement in Hope, but I've never really heard the story of how you actually started at Hope, or how you came in contact with them. So when you started, you were like a volunteer, like a grunt, like I was.
Yes, I was on the planning team. I started on the planning team as a volunteer in the bar services. And I was really, not that I'm not into music, but I was really into music back then. The music committee of that planning team back then, they didn't have bands because it was pretty early in the...
It was just strictly the volleyball tournament?
It was strictly volleyball, and then we sort of introduced local bands, and I was actually thinking about it today. There was one band that played several years in a row, and they were called Stone Soul Picnic or something like that, and they were kind of a bluesy souls band.
Good dad rock.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the first sign band that we ever had was Kim Mitchell Band.
Hey, man, that's a good Canadian artist.
Oh, I know.
There's nothing.
It was
no shame in the Mitch.
No, it was pretty cool. That was like 98, 99, I think, something like that. We had them, and then it's just grown ever since. We've had known bands that are signed bands play as headliners ever since.
And amazing bands, local artists, bigger Canadian artists. But let's back this up. What is Hope Volleyball Beach Fest?
Okay. Hope stands for Helping Other People Everywhere. And the actual title of the organization is Hope Helping Other People Everywhere, Ottawa Carleton Inc. And everybody knows about the volleyball tournament, but there's other things that we do and other things we're hoping to do in the future. And because it takes a year to organize that one-day event, there's other things that need to be managed in the office. There's only basically two employees, myself and Holly Terrison, who you know.
Holly? Shout out to Holly.
Yeah, shout out to Holly. And but there's management of the board of directors and management of the membership and the planning team and selecting the charities every year. And that sort of stuff happens after the event is over. In August, we start looking into charities that want to apply for funding for the next year. And when Hope started, we're in our 36th year, 36 years ago, it started at Britannia Beach, and it was so small. It was maybe about 5 courts, maybe 10 teams at the most. It was really small. And I think maybe they only gave away to one or two charities back in those days. And then it progressed. I think we're giving away to 4 charities. And then we were giving away to 4 charities and 2 national charities. And now we're pretty stable at 6 charities every year that is selected by the membership of Hope.
That's amazing. And sponsored by Ottawa local stuff, like the radio stations have always been a big part of.
Yes, especially, and I'm quoting a past podcast that you'd had with Matt Spag, where he had said the bands have changed, and you said it's due to sponsorship, and you're right. Back when they first started booking bands, I think we had Shea 106 as a sponsor.
Classic rock.
Yeah. So the bands had to match that radio station. Then the next radio station sponsor was the Bear. And we had to match bands that the Bear that kind of genre of music that was played. And now we have such a great long-standing sponsorship with New Cap Radio, which is both Hot 89.9 and Live 88.5. Mm-hmm. And because of that sponsorship of those two radio stations, it covers our whole demographic. Because Hot is basically the younger crew of, I don't know, anywhere from 16 years of age, 18 years of age to 24 years of age. And Live 88.5 is more like the 25-year-olds to the 45-year-olds.
Right.
And Hot basically is the sponsor of the main beach area and the main Hot 89.9 bar, which is hopping all the time. And Live has the amphitheater, which is huge and has the big stage. And so, the bands that we have match up with those radio stations. In the Hot Lounge, we have a DJ spinning tunes, which is kind of that kind of music that Hot has.
Yeah.
And in the live 88.5 bar or amphitheater in the North End, it's more the bands that are alternative rock.
Right, and I know all those cordoned off areas, and the 89.9 one I don't go in because it's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I always have some place to go, and you will have a place to go if you do go to Hope.
Yeah.
When Matt Spag was on the show, he mentioned Hope, but he called it the Hope Sessions. Was that his just him saying what it was, or was that something that
it was something back in those days? Rogers Television was a sponsor of ours, and my good friend Gavin Lumsden, he and I sat together and thought of this thing in which to select bands, because when I met you guys of Our Mistake back in those days.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah. I used to get these applications for bands to play, for local bands to play the beach. And it was basically me and maybe one other person that went out to bars like on a Wednesday night at 11:30 at night to listen to a band who was hoping to play the beach. And Gavin and I sat down and we came up with this competition that was taped for Rogers Television called the Hope Sessions.
Hope Sessions, okay. So it was a thing.
It was a thing, and it took place at Barrymore's. And Big Jesus Truck was a part of that back in those days, and they were selected that year. And I remember when Matt was talking about that one Northern Pike showed up, and I remember going backstage and saying because Big Jesus Truck just stayed backstage and partied the whole day, and I said, "Can you guys go on again?" And they're like, "Okay."
Big Jesus Truck will never shy away from hamming it up.
No.
From 1993, when you started at Hope, and you started as more of a volunteer and you worked your way up, when did you start actually getting involved in the music and that? And how did that happen? When the music started to get like the Kib Mitchells of, that style of music and actual signed bands, Hope had, at the time, the executive director back then, Howard Esbin, had a meeting with Ken Craig. And Ken Craig is quietly known in the city for booking all the bands at Canadian Tire Place and other shows. He is actually a big deal in booking bands in the city of Ottawa. And he actually took on Hope to help us with booking local bands because we didn't know what we were doing. And I had told Howard, that's what I want to do for a living. I want to be able to do basically what Ken Craig does, but basically his yes man, like his right-hand man. So Howard had talked to him about helping me out, utilizing me as much as possible. And so I worked with Ken Craig for several years. I would get a list of the bands that the radio station was sort of promoting, up-and-coming bands, give him that list and send him off to try and research and see what the cost would be. And we'd have a small budget, very small budget. And that probably would have been around the early 2000s again. Okay.
That's when we started that relationship with Ken.
Cool. And I've met Ken Craig. He's a nice guy.
He is very nice.
He was always nice to me.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah.
So when you started booking bands and you started having that freedom to reach out, because I'm not 100% sure of how you do it, but I know we've talked in past just in personal things and saying, I'm looking to get these guys, I'm looking at these guys. Was it the same way back then as it is now, where you had the freedom to be like, I have this budget.
Yes.
I'm just going to start reaching out to these bands and throw something against the wall and see what sticks.
Yes. And I'd have a pretty ambitious list. And because Ken was in the business, I would throw out really big names. And he'd say, yeah, you can't afford that. And that's when I learned just how much bands actually cost, because I'd be like, you got to be kidding me, And then he'd also knew what bands were being played at other shows in the city, and he'd call me up and he'd say, I don't know, AC/DC's getting $1 million, or
Was that actually on the table? AC/DC?
not for me. Not
Okay.
for me. He'd tell me about
Like,
other. No.
AC/DC live at Oak Volleyball.
Yeah,
That'd be
no
a
kidding.
That'd be fucking
I know,
nuts.
and I'd love to have certain like even right now. I meet with DJ Noah from Live to go over selections of bands I want, and I have a list and he has a list, and we kind of go down the list. But the first thing he said this year when we sat down was Foo Fighters, and I'm like,
Oh man.
Foo Fighters, they're like $750.
Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters, $750,000 just to start.
Just to show up, eh?
Just to start, you know, and so that kind of gives you an idea what kind of money Mark Monahan has to be able to get them. That's a great band to have.
That's
for
Blues Fest. Yeah,
Yes.
craziness.
Yes.
So when you booked your first, the first, I guess what you were in charge of as far as booking, do you remember what that was? Of course you do.
What the first bands that I was in charge of booking?
When Hope had like under your reign.
Well, Kim Mitchell was one of them,
Yep.
and then again the budget. It was all dependent on the budget, and when we got the Northern Pikes, and then 5440, Ian Thornley, 3 Days Grace. And again, I loved 3 Days Grace. They blew the speakers that year.
Yeah.
But those again were bands that were related to a different sponsor radio station. And then the music changed a little bit. I can't remember all of them. I know that we've had
I can remember like Hawksley Workman.
Yeah, well, the Hawksley Workman was first year of my year of being full time with Hope, and but Hawksley Workman also played in Halifax,
which we'll get to as well.
Yes,
I remember Finger 11.
yes, Finger 11.
I remember more recently, I guess, is like July Talk, which are a great,
July
great
Talk
band.
was a great year.
Yeah.
We've had Mobile and Sam Roberts, Matthew Good, the Strumbellas, Hey Rosetta. Those are all more recently bands.
Yeah.
And
Regardless of all these big shots, though, the beauty of Hope, I've always thought that was really great, is that Hope is one day a year. It's not a blues fest. It's not like you know what I mean? But it's this Ottawa-based festival that people look forward to, very much so. And it's a big deal if you play there. It really is, because it's Ottawa. Well, it's not Ottawa. Yeah, it's Ottawa-born, I guess, right?
it is Ottawa.
So if you get to play Hope, that's a big deal for bands and stuff. But even though all these bigger bands have come through, you've always stayed with the local.
I have.
And there's always like local openers and whatnot.
Yes.
I remember fondly of a few times that my old band, Our Mistake, played at Hope Volleyball. I also remember my ex-band as well, Hearts and Minds, played at Hope Volleyball.
Yeah.
How do you keep in touch with the local in that sense? You know, like where even though you're booking these bands, how do you get in touch with just like the local guys?
Well, as you have said, Hope has become established and gotten known of by the public, and I get a lot of requests now. Before, when we started the relationship with Live 88.5 for the bands on the stage, they had this competition called the Big Money Shot. Mm-hmm. And with the contract with us, they basically written in the contract that the 3 winners of, like, first, second, third place winners of Big Money Shot played the Hope stage and played a couple of other events on the docket that Live maybe had sponsorships with. And so that was easy because when I first met Our Mistake, I was doing all the groundwork and going out to all the bars and listening to the Donkey Punch and the Loud Love and all those bands back in those days. I was going out and listening to and selecting for our event. Even some I can't even remember anymore, but Carlton Beauville or something like that.
Carlton Beauville.
Beauville, that's
Yeah.
it. Carlton Beauville, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so...
Wow, I haven't thought about that since
I know,
a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, even like Anna Mura, she played back in those days too.
Sure, yeah.
And so now, the big money shot is still kind of it's like a big money shot spotlight that they do on Live 88.5, but the contest itself has really dwindled down over the years. They've put a lot of money into that, and it was great because the bands that won got a lot of money out of that that promotion that was going on.
So much money was thrown around for that. So much money. It's incredible.
Hard to imagine. I know. It was a really good event for local bands. And so now I'm getting, I meet with DJ Noah because he knows that local scene. And I get a lot of emails at the Hope office from bands asking if they could play our stage.
Okay. So people actually seek it out then?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Always have. Even when we had the big money shot, I still had people, and I used to email them back saying, you're going to have to reach out to the radio station because that's where we get our bands.
That must be like a surplus of stuff that's just like overwhelming of bands because bands are always looking for that. And something like Hope, too, must be like inbox.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I know. And I got to tell you, it's an odd perspective for me because I'm on that side. I used to be on the side of a band manager reaching out to these people, asking for bands to play their, and then getting the the selection's already been made kind of thing. And I hate that. I hate that feeling. I'm like, oh, I got to email them back and say, sorry, I've got the lineup chosen already. And
I guess there's only so many years in a lifetime, right? So you have your choices, and it's just like, well, maybe next year.
I know. There's a lot of talent out there, though. That's what I'm saying, is there's a lot of talent.
Me on the, I won't really use the talent side, but me on the talent side, yeah, I can see that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you like, I've applied for Blues Fest for the last like 4 years with Goat, and got nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, I understand it. There's like so many bands out there, and certain people get picked and certain people don't for certain reasons, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's the market, and you have to live with that. Rejection is part of the thing. Where are you now in Hope? What are you doing?
I am Hope's operations / logistics manager. When I was a volunteer, I always expressed an interest to be hired by Hope. I felt that this was going to be my dream job. It is actually my dream job. I got hired in 2007 as the logistics manager for Hope part-time. And I was working at Fisher Scientific, and I wrote a proposal for my bosses at Fisher Scientific, and I remember other employees, friends of mine, they're saying, they won't go for this, they won't go for this. And I sat down with the big wigs at Fisher, and I said, Hope has offered me a logistics position, and I'm proposing this time off from Fisher to do this job, and they went for it. So I worked full-time at Fisher and part-time at Hope, and was the logistics manager for about 3 years. And then I got hired on full-time as operations and logistics manager.
Here's a little tidbit of information between me and Laura, is that Southern Studios is actually in her basement because she actually owns the house. I used to live with Laura before she had a room to rent. I was going through some stuff, which we'll discuss on a different podcast, and I was renting a room from her. So we've kind of like had this weird kind of history together. But I actually remember that time when you were working for Fisher Scientific. Is that right?
Yes.
And you had talked to me, or we were talking or something like that, and you said, this is a big deal. I think I'm just going to make the choice, because you had a choice, right? Whether I stay here or I do Hope full time.
Yeah.
And I remember that time period, and you just you threw it out there and you did it, and you've been doing it ever since. So way to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
It was very scary because in 2009, that was the same year that Blues Fest stage blew over. It was our worst event. A storm blew through on the one day of our event, and lightning was striking on the beach, and I was frantically meeting with the police and the president of the board at that time and the executive director back at that time, and we decided to cancel the volleyball tournament, but we kept the entertainment going because we knew from the Weather Channel that the sun was coming out at 1:00, and so we basically told people, go home, volleyball's canceled, but if you want to stick around, we will have the entertainment resuming at 1:00. And people stayed. And they were, I don't know if you were there volunteering that year, but they were sliding down the hill on Ottawa Citizen banners.
Yeah.
And
the year that with the rain, the
yes,
big rain, that was the same
bad
year.
storm.
That was the same year. And look back to episode 6 or 7, I think, of the mine and Eric Worley's golf cart incident.
Oh, I don't know if that was the same
Is that
year.
not the same
I don't
year?
think it's the same year because we've had
All
other
right,
rain
fuck it.
years for sure. But this year we canceled the volleyball and And
this year?
No, the year that this
Oh,
had
okay,
happened.
okay, this particular year.
2009.
Okay, I see.
2009, it was canceled, and Hope was in not very good state in the books.
No.
And I knew that if I had left a secure job at Fisher Scientific that I had been with for 12 or 13 years, to take on a job that if there was another bad year, Hope could have gone bankrupt. That was my dilemma, was do I leave this secure job that I wasn't really happy with to go to my dream job and risk it possibly going under if we had another bad year? And I'm glad I made that decision because it is my dream job.
Well, yeah, and sometimes you just have to roll the dice, you know what I mean? And they come up good sometimes. Sometimes they
Yes.
come up bad. Sometimes they're good.
Yeah.
Sometimes even if they come up bad, maybe they'll come up good in the long run.
Exactly.
But you made the right choice.
That's
and
right.
I'm happy you're there, and Hope is thriving, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's branch off from Hope just a bit, but still talking about Hope.
Right.
When you were out scouting bands, I suppose, when you were going to these bands or going to these clubs at night, saying, "Oh God, I gotta go." To
I
a
know,
fucking
God,
club
I
and
gotta go
fucking
to
check
another
out
club."
More shitty fucking.
Oh, I know.
One night, so you wandered into Cafe de Cuff one night, and a band. Well, it's not as simple as that because you knew Brian beforehand.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you
was,
didn't?
I was
Oh.
invited out because he applied to play Hope Volleyball. And he said, if you want to come and see our band play, this is the night we're playing at Cafe de Cuff. So it was one of those, I got to go out on a Wednesday night.
All right, let me set this up because that sounded really like we missed a spot there.
Okay.
So a guy I used to be in a band with called Brian Ruxtall when Hope Volleyball was looking for local stuff, put in an application to play for our mistake to play at Hope Volleyball. Application was received. You were the one that was forced, unfortunately, to come out and witness what
I was
what you
going
saw.
through those
Okay.
applications, yeah.
So we went. You came to Cafe de Cuff to see I think it was our very first show, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all you now. I can say no more.
Well, I got to tell you, I when I walked in, I was intimidated because I was met by Jay, who is the biggest puppy, but he's a massive human being and scary looking guy. And I was
Jason
like,
Watts.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Jason Watts. I was a little bit intimidated, and but I also sensed a little bit of excitement because as soon as I came in, I think he ran over to you guys and said the chick from Hope's here, and I sat down. I had a friend with me, and we watched the show. Actually, there was a lot of people that turned out to it, and everybody was up dancing and crazy on the dance floor. And I think I stayed for 3/4 of the show.
So did I.
And then I started to walk out, and I don't know, one of either Jay or Brian might have come over with Plastic, the 3 songs
The EP.
EP on Plastic, and I think wasn't that what the EP was called? I know that Plastic was on it,
Something like
and
that.
I took it home and listened to it.
It was called
and-
Sorry.
Was it? It was called Sorry. Yeah.
I think it was called Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but it did have Plastic on it because that was a tune that it stuck out at the show, and then when I put it in, it stuck out on the tape and on the CD, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty good. So I just went back, and I don't know when I told Brian, but I said, yeah, sure, you guys can play, and that was the first time Our Mistake played was the Summerfest. Because I think Our Mistake played 2 Summerfest events in Ottawa and 1 Halifax event.
Okay, break this down for me because I can't remember very well. Did Our Mistake, when I say we, I'm talking about Our Mistake, my old band. Did we play one year and then play the next year, and the second year was the Halifax thing?
I can't remember.
Was there actually like a year gap? Because what I remember is that we played we played Hope Volleyball, then we went to Halifax. I don't remember playing twice.
Yeah, you did, and it might have been the 1 year, and then that same year we did Halifax. So within a month, because I think we did it in August. So July you guys played Hope, and then in August you rented a van and took our stuff down to Halifax and played Halifax. And then you either played the next summer or the summer after. But you definitely played 2 Ottawa Summerfest events and 1 Halifax event.
The only thing that I can remember of playing 2 of them was that for some reason there's something in my brain that says I felt bad. Like, won't people think it's weird that we're playing 2 in a row?
Maybe
Yeah.
that was it.
I think so.
Maybe.
So our mistake was together. We played the Hope thing, and I guess the first year, let's pretend, because our memories are horrible, let's pretend everything went well. But the second year, then we played again. What was Hope Volleyball Halifax? What was that all about?
The membership and the board at the time for Hope had come up with this basically taking Hope to other communities, and one of the board members was from Halifax, and so she really pitched the Halifax event. And at the same time, there were people on the planning team back then or on the membership that were trying to push Hope Guelph, which would have been great. But it ended up, the Hope Halifax won over. And it was a successful event in its own right. And I wish that the people in Halifax had the love for it to carry it on. But basically, the Hope Halifax event was planned by the Ottawa staff and planning team and board. And the premise was that we would sort of organize it. We flew the people from Halifax down to the Ottawa event. Their jaws were on the ground. They were amazed with it. And then we took it to Halifax and had it at Citadel Hill. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was working on the entertainment for Ottawa and the entertainment for Halifax. And that's when we booked Matt Mays,
Jim Cuddy,
Hawksley Workman, and Jim Cuddy, and Our Mistake.
Yeah.
And I think there might have been 2 local bands there that I didn't know very
How
well.
about that, ladies and gentlemen?
It was a good lineup.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, it was a good lineup. But it was the first year, right? And I think we tried to go too big. Because when Hope started 36 years ago, it started rather small and it didn't have entertainment. But we knew how to do it and we knew how it worked, and it's just trying to get the Halifax people interested or into it when they hadn't seen, like the general public hadn't seen the Ottawa event. So the sales for tickets weren't that great, even though the lineup was spectacular. Like, it really was a good lineup.
Yeah. So it only was the 1 year then?
No, it did happen to second year. Halifax happened to second year, I think. If my mind serves me well. But I wasn't involved in the entertainment portion of that. I think we handed it off to Halifax to take care of, and anyways, it dwindled off from there.
Well, that second Halifax year, awesome Hope, super happy you did it, but let's talk about the first Halifax year, because this is a big part of our history.
It is, for sure.
This is a big part of mine and Jay Watts and Brian Ruxtell and all those guys, regardless of what they've done and what I've done in my career, blah, blah, blah. You can't see my quotes, but in my career, I always look back on that trip as one of the great, like, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I say that all the time. I don't know why I'm going to get hit by a bus, but if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I will look back on that Halifax trip as one of the best times of my life.
Yeah, me too.
Because the circle of friends at that time was so deep and so vast, and the band was going really, really well, and we got asked to go to Halifax. And I remember when Brian called me up, and he's like, hey, he was like super excited. He's like, ah! I'm like, what? He's like, we got asked to go to Halifax for Hope. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know. I got to go to work and all this. you know, I was at the time it was just like a weird thing, and he's like, "Come on, man, you got to do it. You can't say no. You can't say no." And I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." And then we went to Halifax, and like you said, we rented the Hertz van. Well, we didn't rent it. I think Hope rented it.
Hope rented it and filled it with our supplies and your music supplies.
Yeah,
and
we
guys drove it.
We
there.
threw bags of volleyballs and some amps in the van, and we headed out. And Brian and Jay Watts were in a car ahead of us, and me and Rodney at the time were in the Cube van driving up. And we didn't know. We felt like we were like the big rock stars. Keep in mind, this is like fucking 12, 13 years ago. So we thought we were like, yay, we're on tour. But even though we were going for one destination.
Yeah.
But when we got to Halifax, all the Hope people were there who we had made great communication, great friendships with, just from being in Ottawa. So it was just like having a party with all your friends out of town, but it just, for some reason, because we were out of town, it was just like, fuck it. You know what I mean? It was just like, let's just have a good time.
Yeah.
And I remember the night before the actual event was when we hit the town, and we started we met you guys at the shoe company or the
shoe company. That's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, in Halifax. And I remember we walked in, and we were nobody, absolutely nobody. But all you guys treated us really well. Like, we walked into the patio, and you guys like got up, and you're like, "Yay!
Our mistake is here.
The band is here."
I know. And everybody who wasn't part of the Hope crew turned to look at the band that was walking in,
which in turn like led to this like weird excitement. Like, these guys might be like an actual band, so let's just be really nice to them. And it was cool. But that was like a long night of debaucherous, exciting fun.
Yeah, I agree. I've always said that's been the funnest time of my life, hands down. That weekend, I think it spanned over 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, but I feel bad for you guys because none of us could afford anything. And we were partying like we could afford everything. You know, it was crazy. We were hard on ourselves for sure back then.
Well, I remember Jay Watts was on the podcast, and he said that he got so caught up in the moment that he only had like $300 or something like that of spending cash for the whole week, and he like decided to buy the whole bar, like a round of shots, and he got the bill at the end of the night, and it was like we were in that bar for like what, half an hour.
I know,
because
we went to other bars.
Yeah, we jumped all over the place that night, and he got the bill, and it was like $400 or something like that. He's like, I'm broke.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like the first night, and he still got 3-4 nights to go, you know, and I know.
Yeah, but I remember we stopped at a lot of pubs, and we ended up going to like some clubs, and I remember dancing. I remember we were like cutting a rug, we were like dancing.
There was that one club that was 3 or 4 levels high, and we were all on different levels.
I danced on all 3 levels. Exactly. I did, because I didn't give a shit at the time. And we just got wrecked, but super happy, super fun. And there was that incident apparently, which I still absolutely don't remember, when we were walking up Citadel Hill, sweaty because it was humid, and apparently the back door of some restaurant was open, and they had milk crates.
Yes, and you guys slid down the hill.
And
on
apparently,
the milk crates?
we sat in milk crates, and because it was so steep and the milk crates were like plastic, we could slide down.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember it either. I remember talking about it after, but I don't remember it. But it happened. It happened.
I'm going to take everyone's word for it.
It definitely
that happened. But
yeah,
there's 2 things that I want to recall from this trip. Not that I don't remember most of them fondly, but I remember with the Our Mistake guys, we went down to the Keith's Brewery.
Yeah.
And it was at the bottom of Citadel Hill. I don't know if Citadel Hill is like people from Halifax may correct me, but whatever. It's like at the bottom of the hill, and there's the brewery, and you can buy the beer right out of the gift shop. Mm-hmm. And we went down there, and we didn't take the tour of the brewery, but we bought a whole bunch of cases of like Keiths, and we walked them up the hill, and it was exhausting because we had to go up like 45-degree angle. And that Keith's Brewery beer, straight out of the gift shop cooler, we got back to the hotel, we drank it. It was the greatest beer of all time. The second thing is, I remember when me and Brian Ruxtell woke up that morning. Rodney and Jay were already on the hill, and I don't think 2000. I don't think we were.
Was this show day? Was this the day?
This was the day. Like we didn't get texts or emails or something or anything like that because it was before all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember like we woke up and we're like, we should go to the hill, and we scrambled and Brian put the gel in his hair because he had like the faux hawk thing going on, and I was just like, okay, let's go. And we went up there, and I remember right before we went on, I like went behind the porta potties and I like barfed because I was so sick from like the day before or the night before, and then we went up and we played the show. So it was that. Those are my highlights.
Well, that's a big surprise to me because I think Jay spoke to this memory as well. But when you were on stage and you were playing, you sprinted around that stage like 30 times, and that was one of the biggest stages I've ever set up.
Oh, it's huge.
It was a massive stage.
It was like,
and you jogged I don't know, I can't remember what song you were playing, but you ran around the whole stage like 25 times. For somebody who would have just Ralphed before that, man, you wouldn't have known.
What an asshole. Like, who the fuck's that
Oh,
guy?
I thought it looked pretty cool. I think that was pretty rock and roll.
Yeah, because me and Rodney had picked up some wireless rigs.
Yes, and you were
something.
trying those out. That's right. That's
so
right.
I was unhinged.
Yes.
I was unhinged.
Yeah, you were enjoying the moment for sure.
Yeah, it was cool, man, and it was great. And then we spent the next few days, I guess,
still doing Halifax stuff. And
yeah.
remember, we were down, like when you talk about down at the bottom of the hill, that was down by like the where all the boats come in. The main street that Keith's is on is the harbor. It's like, it's probably called Harbor Street or something. I don't know, but there's a couple of pubs down there, and there's a hotel with a gambling place. What are like a casino? And we were at one of those. That was another thing where we were at one of those bars outside, and we were there before you guys came. And I think this might have even been after the show was over, and you guys came up and we started yelling, "There's our mistake! The band is here!"
That's one of those moments that, as far as friendships go, as far as people go, and like really things in your life that you'll always hold on to. That's one thing that I wish I could just like freeze in like a little cube and just and keep it there.
Yeah.
For guys like Brian, who I don't talk to that much anymore,
right?
I wish we could go back to that just for a minute.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I mean?
sure. It was a lot of fun and seamless, and no strife or struggle in it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So after that, Our Mistake kept going, but you became the manager of Our Mistake.
Well, Brian asked me, and I when he asked me to come out and see you guys play at Café de Cuff, a couple days later, I said, yeah, okay, you're in. And then he called me up and he had this long conversation about how they needed a manager and asked me if I would be their manager. I had absolutely no intentions of ever being a manager of any band. He just thought that I was well organized and I could help organize you guys getting played elsewhere. Maybe the excitement of me actually getting you guys to play Hope, Ottawa and Hope Halifax. I don't know, but he said, we need a manager. Would you manage our band? And I said, I have never done anything like that before. I don't know, Brian. I don't think so. And I ended the call, and then he called me back again, and he said, seriously, I think you can do this. We could use it and really would like you to be our manager. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try it for a while. I don't know if the rest of your guys are going to be keen on this, but if it doesn't work, I'm going to step away. And he said, no, it's going to work. It's going to work out. And so I ended up becoming your band manager for whatever that, like I don't think I helped you guys out that much, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I got to know you guys really closely and really dug being at your practices, because getting to know how you actually constructed a song or played out a song or how your dynamics worked when you guys were together, it was cool for me to experience that.
Just because you said the word keen, I'm regretting the decision now. That's a joke.
How keen you guys were?
She's like staring lasers through me. Anyway, but
No, I'm not.
here's the thing about you being the manager. You did great as the manager. You were so supportive of us. I don't think Sleeping with the Kill Squad could have progressed the way it did without having someone in the room to you always, like, if you go to a band practice, me being in a band, you go to a band practice, you play the same fucking shit over and over and over again, but you get someone in the room who's sitting there being like an observer, or not so much like a critique, but just somebody to like, what do you think of this? when we were writing Sleeping with the Kill Squad, which I still think is it's a technical record.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of amazing riffs in it. It has a lot of amazing feels in it. It has so many
lyrics are pretty great.
Yeah,
too.
so many different just the way those songs were structured. I've never written that way before that record. I've never written that way after that record. But it was nice having somebody there who came in, and you would sit there and you'd sit in on the band practices, and it pushes you to play, because I would look towards you to when we finished a song, even when we were just writing it.
Yeah.
To be and you'd be like, that was great, because you'd be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, why don't you?
Yeah.
So I think Sleeping with a Kill Squad, I chalk it up. There was a couple of things when Jay was in. I chalk it up to me and Brian being very competitive when it came to the writing.
Yeah.
I chalk it up to trying to be somewhat, different, kind of technical. And I also chalk it up to having someone in the room kind of watching us that would push us to say, okay, we can do more, we can do more, we can do more. So I think that you had a huge mark on that record.
Yeah. I felt, in all honesty, I felt nervous about it too, because I didn't have the music technical background, but maybe I was offering that fan input in the background because you guys were playing for your fans and they enjoyed the music. But I loved that whole process too. I loved going to Jordan's studio with you guys on occasion when I went. What a nice guy he is. Love Jordan.
Jay-Z.
Oh, and just even watching you guys put that together was amazing to me. So I don't know if it was any helpful to you, but it was a huge learning curve for me. And, when Brian had asked me, I did get you a bunch of shows at, whether it was at Barrymore's or at Zaphod's and that was always, I'd want to book you more spots. And then you'd have somebody in the band saying, oh, no, we don't want to oversaturate the city with our stuff.
Yep.
And so, I helped a little bit with that. I put stuff out to the universities and tried to get you in to play at some of the universities, but it was all a learning experience for me too. And
it was an awesome collective of what was going on at the time, and I kind of based that all around Sleeping with the Kill Squad. I know I'm going to repeat myself.
Yeah.
The one thing I forgot to say was the Adam DePenta.
Yeah.
I gave that motherfucker a hard time.
Yeah.
I kicked that guy's ass,
Yeah.
and he kicked mine too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he really shaped the sound of what was going on that record. And I look back on that time when things were going great, as I've been in bands before, I've been in bands since, but there was just something special about that little pocket of time.
Yes. Yeah.
That I miss, and I wish, if I could relive it, I would do it again. I wouldn't change a thing. But yeah, definitely. And I'm super happy that you were involved in that, and you had a lot to do with that.
Well, thank you. I
really
appreciate
did.
that. Thank you.
And we have so many great memories to
we
go
do.
on. But this podcast can't go on forever. I wish it could, because we could talk about it.
I know, it's true. There's so much we could go on about our adventures.
We're missing so much stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I want to touch on two things.
Okay.
Now that I got you here. I had Jay Watts in the studio.
Uh-huh.
And we talked about how Our Mistake had reached its end.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait. I'm jumping ahead.
Okay.
Before Our Mistake had reached its end, that's the other thing I want to talk about. I had talked about how we had switched bass players.
Yes.
And you sent me a text because
Yes.
I think on the podcast I was just like, so that bass player just left and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When Rodney Nelson, you're a good guy. I love you, buddy. I hope that someday you accept my GOAT invitation to come to a show. But the day came where Our Mistake had to get rid of a bass player.
Right.
And because based off the segment about you being our manager,
right?
Because we're a bunch of fucking gutless cowards,
right? It was laid out to me that because I was a manager, I should do my manager duties.
We asked you to
didn't
fire
care.
Rodney.
I said I can do it. I'm going to be respectful about it, and I was very respectful, and I basically said the band's going in a different direction, and they've been thinking they'd like to go in a different direction without you, and I wasn't happy about that, and I understand who likes being kicked out of anything or removed from something.
It's tough.
It's tough, and So anyways, I did the deed, and then we needed a new bass player, and we discussed it as a band, and I said, okay, I can put ads out here, here, and here, and I'd put ads at like Long McQuaid, and there was one spot that you had mentioned on that podcast with Jay. I think I put an ad there, but it came from the Long and McQuaid here on Alta Vista, and he called me or texted me
Adam
or
did.
something. Adam did, yeah.
Okay.
And I talked to him about the band and the style, and I sent him some of the music and said, are you interested? And he said, yeah, kind of, you know, how Adam was. And so I said, okay, let's set up a meeting. And after one of our mistakes practices out at Whirly Studios, we met him at the Blackburn Arms.
Right. Okay.
And
So basically here on Ego and Vice, you get the truth.
yeah.
And then when you have certain people on, you get the facts. So I really wanted to cover the whole Rodney Nelson
Yeah, I was
thing.
always texting Mike saying, no, that's not how it happened.
Yeah, right. She's like Laura corrects me all the time. Rodney, if you're out there, if you're listening, if by chance you're listening, no hard feelings, man.
I'm sorry,
I'm
Rodney.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You're a good guy. I wish
Yeah.
you more than happiness in the world. Give me a shout. Let's go for a beer. The other thing is finding Adam.
Yes.
You totally did. You
Yes.
totally did.
Yeah. It
Find
was from an
Adam.
ad that we put at Long McQuaid.
Yeah.
Looking for a bass player.
And the last thing I want to talk about is the meeting when
At my
said
house.
bass player Adam DePenta was.
Yeah.
Or no, I guess
No,
it wasn't.
it was
No,
just
it was
the
it was
end
the
of
end of
the-
the band.
the end
So
of the
what do you
band.
remember from that meeting?
Well, what I remember is when everybody walked out, I was like, holy crap, I didn't expect it to go like this. I didn't expect it to break up. I was like, okay, we're going to work this out and things are going to be fine. And four guys left and went their own ways. And it was a shock to me. That was a shock to me. Also a little bit of a relief.
Because that was an end for all of us. Because you were very involved with our mistake at the time.
Yeah.
So between me, Brian, Jay, and Adam, and you,
Yes.
we were like a five collective. And then
Yes.
all of a sudden, we all went our separate ways.
And you guys all collectively went your separate ways with different bands and different things. And but as I said, it was also a relief too, because it was getting stressful going to practices and knowing that there was something that was on edge with either one of you at the band, and you know, not some discussions not happening and some happening on the side after. It just wasn't a good thing, and it was actually probably time, you know, the time.
Yeah. I think looking back on it now, it's been over 10 years, I guess.
Yeah.
No. Well, about 10 years, I guess. What time? When did we break up? 2007?
I think it was 2008.
2008. So 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking back on it now, yeah, we've all kind of done our thing. Brian's doing his thing with his studio,
his
Shoebox
studio.
Recording.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Jay is flourishing.
Yeah, he's all over the place with
Yeah.
a lot of bands.
He
for
was
sure.
in Hearts and Minds, but he's in an amazing band called Bytown Lights, like
Yeah.
the super band.
Yeah, really
the
good.
super band.
Yeah.
Amazing. I went to Craig's wedding.
Oh, did you?
Craig Watts' wedding.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Bytown Lights were playing.
Oh, cool.
Bytown. Oh God, is it Bytown Lights?
Yeah, it's Bytown.
Okay,
Lights.
Bytown. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought it was something else for a
Yeah.
second. And they're amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
they are really good. I saw them at live, the bar live, about a month or so ago, and I thought, wow, these guys are really good.
Yeah. And Adam, man, I know that you got married and had a kid. All the power to you.
He did do some, when he left Our Mistake, he did do some session playing for, like, he was in Amanda Rayum's band for a couple of sessions.
Nice.
Yeah, playing bass.
Oh, she's
So-
amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's doing it anymore because he's now a papa and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, good on you, Adam. If you're out there,
Yeah.
again, I was young and stupid, man. You want to go for a beer? That's cool, dude. Look at me making amends.
And then you too, all the stuff you're doing. I mean, you've been in so many different bands and
I've been in jail. I was accused of I'm doing okay. I'm doing
Yeah,
okay. You know, we all just try to get by with what makes us happy.
Yes.
And on that note, what is the future for you? Like, what are you doing with Hope? Where do you want to go? Like, what's going on?
Well, so with the whole history of me and getting hired on Hope, I got hired as full-time as logistics and operations management. and I manage to book all the bands every year with some help from some people in the background as well. And it is my dream job. So where I want to go with Hope, I just want to keep doing this job. And the board right now of Hope has created a couple different committees that have branched off, and one of them is an Expand Our Give, and I'm on that committee, and we're looking at possibly doing other events. Like right now with Hope, we have the summer event, and we have a very little known winter event that takes place basically out by Blackburn, where the Louis Riel School is. There's a dome out there that has 3 soccer fields in it. And March 10th, we just had our 4th annual winter event. It's strictly volleyball. And it's, 4 years we've done it. It's been a huge success, but it's a much smaller event than the Summerfest event. Like Summerfest, it's like 1,032 teams, 10,000 players, whereas the winter event is more like 32 teams and 250 players. So
yeah, I see the winter event too. I was going to ask about that, but you just explained it. That's really cool.
And so, with this Expand Our Give, maybe Hope might get into some other smaller events just to keep our name going out there, just to keep people thinking it's not just the summer event. We do other things too to give back to the community.
Amazing. And Hope will continue to give back to the community, whether it be the summer event, the winter event. Do you have some plugs? Where can people find Hope?
So our event this year is Saturday, July 14th, and it's at Mooney's Bay Beach. I can't announce the bands, but what I can tell you to do is listen to Live 88.5 on April 27th, sometime around that time, between 8 and 8:30 in the morning, and we're going to announce the lineup for our event this year. I'm kind of excited about it because this is the first, well, it's not the first year, but our headliner is an American band. For the 36 years, and actually about the 15 or 17 years that I've been doing the entertainment, it's always been Canadian bands.
Right.
And we did have one American band. You know them very well. Matt Anthony played
I love
Hope.
that band.
Yeah, they played Hope a couple years ago as one of our opening headliner bands. Like we typically have 3 headliners and 3 opener bands. And Matt Anthony was one of the bands that was one of the signed sort of opening bands. And they're from Cincinnati, right?
I think that Cincinnati or St. Louis or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Ask Matt Luloff. He'll know.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, our headliner this year is an American band, and I can't say anything more, but looking forward to making that announcement. Holly will be making that announcement on Live 88.5 on April 27th.
You're going to tell me off air, though, right?
Maybe.
Oh, fuck's sakes. I have privy, my friends. I'm going to know before anybody. Maybe. Who knows? Okay. So, anyone who comes on Ego and Vice, I do a rapid question period.
Okay.
And you're no different.
All right.
You have to do it. Or you don't have to.
Well, I'm ready to do it.
But I always ask someone.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Questions and answers, honesty lies. Yes, no, you can't, but you can and you know why.
Shit, you must be fucking, man. Like, what's he talking about? Any questions?
Oh, my intro music just warms my cockles. Anyway, this is Rapid Questions. This is Ego and Vice. Laura Andrews. Favorite music as a kid?
Oh, favorite music as a kid was the first band I ever saw as a kid was Supertramp.
Supertramp. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
You love my cat.
I do love your cat, but I have a dog upstairs, so who loves your cat too?
Okay. First concert?
Was Supertramp in the 70s.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Oh, Forrest Gump.
Okay.
Run, Forrest, run.
Yeah. Run, Forrest. What's your favorite book?
Ooh. I don't know. More recently, I would say it would have to be the Hunger Games trilogy was a big hit for me. I read them all in like a couple of weeks. So.
You're a massive nerd.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That's okay.
What's your favorite record?
Ooh. This is tough. Because I love so many different bands. And I don't know if this is going to be one of your questions, but my favorite song is by 9 Inch Nails, and it's Closer.
Okay.
It's a song that I have on my workout iPod thing. And when I work out, it makes me run. So
Nice.
it's like one of my favorite songs.
When she's on the mill working out the glutes.
Yes, exactly.
All right. What's the first record you ever bought? Cassette, 8-track. We're all old motherfuckers.
It was a Who album. Who Are You?
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Where am I here? What's your favorite band?
Wow. Current or old? Okay, I'm gonna do old. My favorite band, old,
Yeah.
is Old Genesis or Peter Gabriel. And my favorite band new would be Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters. That's why Genesis and the Foo Fighters. That's why you and Luloff and fucking Watts get along so well.
Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah, super true.
It's huge. Like I love REM and I love, there's so many other, but those are my two favorites, I would say.
This is the one that you're not going to want to pull favorites for, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Best local show you've ever seen, meaning local band.
Local bands.
You better say the right fucking answer.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. I'm afraid of disappointing you.
You're allowed one pass, and then you can come back. I'm not expecting our mistake. Come on,
No.
Goat. Trust me.
Definitely Hearts and Minds.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got a pretty rockin' show, and local. Another one would be Loud Love.
Oh, Jesus Christ. They were so fun.
Yeah, they were great.
Oh, I miss those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What is your death row meal?
Oh, wow. I've become kind of a vegetarian now of late. Sorry to say, you carnivore, you.
Born and raised carnivore, die and bury carnivore.
You know what? I'm going to just have to say it would have to be a Ukrainian meal like pierogies and cabbage rolls because I'm Ukrainian.
All right. Fair enough. Death row song. Last song you can listen to before they pulled the switch.
Ooh. Because that's a very sad moment in your life. I would have to say it would have to be...
She's checking her notes, everybody.
I'm checking them twice.
That's awesome.
Sarah McLachlan. A Sarah McLachlan song.
Good Canadian artist, my friends.
Yes, and she has some very beautiful songs that I think I would like to go out with.
Okay. Very good. The next three, actually. The next two are not rapid, but take your time. It's all good. Favorite our mistake moment?
Oh.
I think Brian, Jay, and Adam, maybe Rodney, might enjoy this.
Favorite our mistake moment was on the roof of our hotel the day after the day of the show. After the show, we were partying on the roof of the hotel, and I actually have a picture of you guys from that moment.
Right. I remember that picture.
That's one of
I think I have that picture too somewhere.
That's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
I was incoherent.
Yes.
Yeah. But I looked good.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Okay. And where am I here? Okay. The best day of your life.
Well, I've referred to it a couple times now, and it was March 10th, 2010, and it was when I got my dream job at Hope.
Awesome. And the very last question I have, who is your favorite Our Mistake member?
Well, that would have to be
I should put a drum roll in this.
Adam DePenta. No.
No, just please. You know what? For the sake of just saying it, just say that, please. Because everything else is going to cause a shitstorm.
I know, it's so true. It would have to be Adam DePenta.
He's my favorite Arm Mistake member, actually. He actually is. Anyway.
And you guys know the only reason I said that is because it would cause an all-out war if I chose any of you other three.
Right. So we're gonna wrap this up. This has been Our Mistake. This has been Ego and Vice, episode 26. I've had Laura Andrews on. Laura, all I want to say is that for our time together, I love you very much. You're one of my best friends in the world, and it was like you said earlier. The honor was all mine.
Oh, thank you. You know what? Before I say my good night, I just have to tell you people, too, that if there's any way you could get a hold of the song that Mike wrote, I should have said this in the rapid fire, but when I first met Mike in Our Mistake, the song he wrote called Amaze Me had affected me internally like you wouldn't believe. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. The words to it are amazing, and it's called Amaze Me. Maybe you could play that, Mike.
I will go out with that.
All right.
All right. So this has been Ego and Vice, episode 26, and we will see you next week.
And here I sit on top of all the years that have come and gone. Looking back, I see the faces. I forget the names. Remember when we used to laugh right through the day. I feel each breath blow by and smile as all words fade. Child that grew up way too fast, we felt the way it began.
Just coming out of that song, I just want to give a shout-out to my friend Mary Logren, who is in Thunder Bay, Ontario. When I moved to Ottawa in 1998, I was on this weird kind of kick, and I said, I just want to go and move somewhere and do something amazing. And she said, just go and be amazing, which is basically the inspiration for that last track you heard. So thanks, Mary. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at egoandvice@gmail.com. If you want to hear the podcast, you can listen to them at egoandvice.com. They're all up there. They're free of charge. If you want to be on the show, if you want me to play your band on the show, even if you just want to be on the show and I can make an episode all about you, that's where you find me. All right, so my name is Mike, and we'll see you again next week. This is Ego and Vice. See you down the road.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.